Welcome to Galway and the 6th import race of the Volvo Ocean Race. You're live with us here on VolvoOceanRace.tv. My name's Peter Rush. I'm here with Mark Chisnell. We have Knut Frostad out on the water, and you can see by that shot that we are not alone here in Galway. The crowds are out in force. It's a bank holiday weekend. The weather is spectacular, and it looks like we should have an absolutely fantastic day of racing out here. Galway has already seen, we've seen on the arrivals that they certainly know how to throw a party and come out in full force. RC4 first boat in to Galway in first place. That was last weekend, overnight, 4 o'clock in the morning, but thousands of people down at the Galway docks to welcome them in. And of course the local heroes, Green Dragon, in third place on the podium for the first time in a very long time, and a great result for Green Dragon there. I'm going to go to Mark Chisnell now. Mark, tell us a little bit about what we can expect today, the race course, the weather. What's it look like?
As usual, the normal course, we have the windward leeward. The difference between perhaps a conventional windward leeward that most people race is that this one has a mid-course gate, and it's also very, very short. So the boats come off the starting line. They go 1.4 miles at the moment. The bearing is 140, the wind direction, through a gate halfway up that line to the windward mark, around the windward mark, back down through the gate, and then they have a choice of 2 buoys at the bottom, which effectively creates the second gate, completes the first lap. They repeat that to a second lap. The whole thing's supposed to be timed for about 15 minutes, so it's quick and fast. They do 2 races a day, and the points are accumulated for the results overall. Now, the wind is, as usual for an import race day, is light and tricky. We've had 1 day with good breeze in Singapore. All the others have been very much like today. So we're sitting with a declining pressure gradient, a southeasterly pressure gradient, which has faded 2 days ago. It was blowing dogs off chains here, and right now it's barely stirring the flags. We've got maybe 7 to 10 knots at the moment on the water. If the sea breeze does fill, and it's certainly a very sunny day, it may actually create more problems than do us benefit, because it will try to generate on the west coast and blow in as a southwesterly. Now we're sitting inside the bay on the northern shore of Galway Bay, facing south. So we need that breeze to come all the way up the bay from the southwest to reach us for it really to help us today. So the weather could get problematic, but at the moment it's a beautiful day. It's maybe 7 to 10 knots, perfect racing conditions, flat water, and it's looking absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, Mark, I was just going to say, you can see the conditions out there. We're on board there with the local heroes on board Green Dragon. Certainly flat water, a little bit of breeze, and bright sunshine, guys sailing in T-shirts.
That's right, and I think everybody's happy about that. We haven't seen too much T-shirt racing in recent days. Certainly coming across the transatlantic, it was cold and wet and pretty tough. So yeah, it's a really tremendous day here. It's a real classic summer's day. It's bank holiday weekend in Ireland, and everybody, as you can see on that image there, is out in force. One final thing, I guess, is just to mention the tide, which high water was this morning about 9:30, so it's flowing out of the bay from left to right as we look from this northern shore across the southern shore of Galway Bay, flowing left to the right out of the bay, maybe about a knot. It shouldn't affect the tactics too much, because the beat will be, upwind and downwind legs will be across the course, so tide shouldn't have too much of an impact.
Okay, let's go out onto the water now to Knut Frostad in his usual position out on the race course. Knut, you can count us down maybe into the 10-minute gun, and also let us know what it looks like out from water level.
Well, it looks pretty good, Peter. The breeze has certainly picked up. We were just reading about 12 knots on the committee boat here. So it's been slowly building, and it doesn't look like a perfect sea breeze day, but it feels like a sea breeze, and it's definitely building. Not exactly the perfect direction for it, but we're optimistic. We have sunshine out there, lots of boats, one of the biggest crowds we have seen, and about 10-12 knots of breeze, and the teams are getting ready, so we'll go straight into the start sequence.
Okay, well, we'll keep our eye on that and look for that flag on board the committee boat. We are expecting racing to go on time, but we will be confirmed by the right flag or the postponement flag. Mark, right now, Knut's saying 10 or 12 knots. I think what we've been hearing from the race committee, a little bit of a difference up and down the race course.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit less breeze on this shore, on the northern shore of Galway Bay, a little bit more out in the middle. It's certainly the way it looks from here at the Salt Hill Hotel. We've got a fantastic view over the race course, and we can see that it looks a little softer down by the race committee boat than out in the middle of the bay, where they'll be sailing towards upwind on the first leg.
Well, we're on board there with Puma Ocean Racing, the bright red jackets, and the guys starting to wind in the sails, going up by the committee boat. We might even see the gun there as they go past, but certainly they'll be pinging the line, getting that into the computer, and getting ready for the start.
Yeah, it's a good sign there. They've got a head slap at jib up, not the code zeros. We've seen code zeros up on so many of these import race starts, which means it's right down at the bottom of the wind range that we can get a race going in. So good sign to see your head still on that boat there.
Well, there's Puma Ocean Racing skipper Kenny Reid. Now he's got a little bit to answer for, I'm sure. He didn't have the result he wanted in Boston in the import race, a 6th place in the home crowd, and that's certainly their worst result to date in the import. We'd be looking for them to do a little bit better here.
Yeah, it's been interesting because in Alicante, the Telefonica boats had a fantastic day. First and second, Telefonica Blue winning both races. And great result for Team Telefonica in Alicante at home. And since then, it's gone all downhill for the home team. In Rio, Torben Grail had a pretty average day for Ericsson 4, the overall leaders. They were just 4th on the inshore. I think we're counting down to a gun quite soon, so we'll go over to Canute.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes to the start of the first of 2 scheduled races here on Galway Bay. And again, a really spectacular scene. There was a fair bit of overcast and rain in the week leading up to this after the boats arrived. But there's certainly nothing to complain about today, and absolutely perfect conditions on the day. And we'll start to run you through the teams now, the guys on the water. And 7 teams competing here. Delta Lloyd currently 7th place on the overall leaderboard. But Mark, they've been on a little bit of a tear since they rejoined the race in Rio. They missed the leg from Qingdao to Rio. They had strong results at scoring gates, 2 third-place finishes in the last 2 import races, and certainly these are a team to look for.
That's right, a team on the up. Certainly a lot of changes with this team. I think there was only 4 guys on the boat in the last leg that were also on the boat on leg 1, so that gives you some feeling for the level of change on Delta Lloyd over the last 6 months. We've got next on the list alphabetically, we're going through them, Ericsson 3, 4th overall on the leaderboard, 16 points behind Puma in 3rd. These guys have had a pretty average inshore record, 6, there's another 6, a 7th, and then a 4th. That 4th was in Boston, the most recent one, a good result for them, but it could so easily have been different as it was a 3-boat tie for the 4th place. So they've got something to prove today. They think they sorted out their inshore problems. Their skipper, Magnus Olsson, very confident in the press conference yesterday they have the key to solving the problems. He didn't want to tell us what it was, but my own view is that they have a few communications issues in their afterguard, particularly the helmsman, Thomas Johansson, is a very, very good 49er skipper, which is a small boat, tends to do a lot of the stuff himself, and I think he's having a little trouble handing over some of that responsibility to the guys around him, just focusing on the steering. So if you see him looking over his shoulder today on the pitches, then they still got that problem.
Well, that was Magnus Olsson, confident but a little cryptic yesterday. Didn't want to discuss in detail, but confident the problems were solved. Ericsson 4 is next, and they are, of course, the overall race leader. They've built a fairly comfortable margin over the 2nd place boat on the leaderboard. They also have the 2nd best record on the inshore racing. Their last 2 in Rio and Boston, a 4th place in Rio, 2nd place in Boston, and of course they won the offshore leg, their 2nd consecutive offshore win on the way over here on the transatlantic. So you might not say that they're the team to beat inshore, but they're certainly not far from it. Ericsson 4, skipper Torben Grail. Really, this boat, these guys are strong all round, no clear weaknesses. But if there is conditions that don't favor them, it's light.
Yeah, light and inshore would be probably their weakest conditions so far. 4th in Alicante, I think, as an opener. Green Dragon are next on the list. The local heroes, obviously, 3rd into Galway. Fantastic result for them. Best result for a while. We saw the pictures earlier of that triumphant arrival at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Their inshore record is a 5th, a 5th, a 4th, a 6th, and then a 7th. So they are on a decline that they'll be hoping to arrest today. They've changed the crew around a little bit since Boston when they got their worst inshore result. They've moved Ian Moore back onto the boat. He was unavoidably absent from Boston. He's back now in the twin role of tactician and navigator. So he'll be at Ian Walker's elbow. Ian Walker on the tiller again on the helm. So I think Green Dragon in a position to break that hometown jinx today.
Okay, and then Puma Ocean Racing. We talked about them briefly earlier. Skipper Kenny Reid, of course, he has a fantastic record in one design classes, big and small. And certainly Puma is among the stronger boats on the inshore legs, but you wouldn't have known it to see them race in Boston. A really disappointing result for the guys there. They had another strong result offshore. They were 2nd place on the way in here. And always the bridesmaid, these guys. They haven't been able to win an offshore leg. They haven't been able to win an import. And yet they're hovering around the top of the leaderboard still. Their import record 3-2, 3-2, and of course that's 6th place in the last one in Boston. So watch for Puma here, because I think they're going to be looking to make amends for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Puma will be very keen to return to the podium today and keep up that challenge to Telefonica Blue. Telefonica Black, next on the list. They are 6 overall, 16 points behind Green Dragon, so a team at the wrong end of the leaderboard, but also a team that today could come through. It's a light air boat, like Telefonica Blue. It's particularly quick, or it seems to have its favoured spot in light air. They had a second in similar conditions in Alicante, so there's no reason why these guys shouldn't do well today. Pretty decent inshore record as well, 2.455. So Telefonica Black, another boat, a bit of a dark horse perhaps today.
All right, and Telefonica Blue, our colleague in radio, Guy Swindles, was saying, listen, these guys must have been smiling as they ate their breakfast when they saw the forecast here. But, Canute, I'm going to throw it back out to you. You're on the water. Tell us, again, a little update on the conditions and just talk us into that 5-minute gun. It's just a few seconds away now.
Yeah, the 5-minute gun is just coming up as speak, and the conditions are actually better and better. Very interesting, we have just had a 5-minute gun right there, is that not one of the boats have actually gone for the closed zero option, and I can hardly remember the last time we had an import race where we didn't have all the closed zeros up or down, we had the first part. So, although it looks pretty light before the start, this is turning out to be pretty windy race, because they're all clear on the general, and they're all getting ready for a race that they would expect more than 12 knots of breeze, I would say. Could not even think about 16 in closed zero. But we're right into the sequence now, and to me, we know that from the reports we have on the mark that there is a tendency to have more breeze close to the upwind mark. But right now, I would say it has really chilled all the way down to the start line. It looks nice and solid the whole way, so it's all bound for a good day.
Thanks, Canute. Well, of course, Telefonica Blue is the team to beat out here. They've got 2 import wins on the trot in both Rio and Boston, and in Boston, of course, they won both races. So really strong performance by the guys on Telefonica Blue. They have a different helmsman, a different, they say, skipper on the inshore races. Iker Martinez taking the wheel from Boa Becking, who still remains at the back of the boat in the afterguard, whispering in his ear. But certainly these guys look very strong, and in the lighter, flat wind conditions, they're hard to beat. But maybe as we get up to 12, 14 knots, that's maybe getting outside their comfort range.
It's certainly starting to get a little more into Puma's zone, and I think it's the contest between these two that'll be the most interesting today. It's the closest thing on the leaderboard right now, just a point and a half between them. So just a half point or a point here difference makes a big impact on the next leg when they set up for the next leg. So these are the two boats to watch, really, and as the more the breeze gets up, the more we get into Puma's territory, and the more we get out of Telefonica Blue's territory.
Now, the other boat to watch here, of course, are those local heroes on Green Dragon. Unfortunately for them, as the breeze gets up into this kind of medium range, well, Ian Walker yesterday, he was saying that's the worst situation they could have. He's happy if it's really light, he's happy if it's really windy, but in between, he thinks they're at a slight disadvantage to the other guys. And we know there's nothing they would like more than to get on the podium here again, Mark.
No, to repeat that third place into Galway with a podium finish in the import racing here in Galway in front of the hometown crowd would be fantastic for these guys.
All right, Canute, as they start to wind themselves up and get set up for the start, any changes in the breeze down there? What are you seeing as they go? We've got 2.5 minutes to the start.
Yeah, we got 2.5 minutes, and Peter, it looks like the breeze is just solid and nice. I mean, it hasn't dropped at all. It's going to be interesting because looking at the course, it could see that there are some patches with less breeze, sometimes on the left side, sometimes on the right side. But it looks solid all over the place. There's no really big clouds anywhere. Only behind us, really. And I think it's going to be a close start. There's only 2 minutes left, and I'm with Green Dragon and Telefonica here at the pin end. It looks to me like Puma is the one setting up closest to the line at the moment, and doesn't look like they really want anything but the pin or leeward position here.
Canute, we've often seen in these races, I can't remember the last time we didn't see, somebody usually takes the transoms of everybody, starts on port tack at the committee boat a few seconds late. You think we'll see something like that again here today?
I think there's a possibility, and one thing with these boats, the Volvo Ocean 70s, is that the canting keel mechanism, which is so efficient offshore, is hurting you in the tack, which means that any tack is a loss. You lose a lot of distance in the tack. So if you can cut the stern out on port in the start, you save one tack if everybody wants to head right. So it really depends on where people want to be after the start line. But we're getting into the final now, and interesting, the whole bunch is all the way up on the weather side, and Telefonica Blue is setting up the leeward of the fleet, except Green Dragon, who's alone at the pin end, completely alone.
Okay, there's 1 minute.
1 minute left to the start.
1 minute to the start.
Yes. We have a Green Dragon. It's just been out on the pin, and they're approaching the fleet on 4 track. Can be a risky move, but I would say that Green Dragons do have enough space there. In fact, Telefonica Blue is holding up the whole fleet by having the strong leeward position where they have all the rights to keep Puma to weather of them. And they actually give Green Dragon quite a bit of flare in here, because normally they would be in trouble coming that late into the start. It's only 30 seconds left, and Green Dragon has to make a quick tack to get into the leeward of Telefonica there, but they choose to actually go behind. So Ian Walker seems to set up, as we said, on 4 tracks to cut the stern. And it's Telefonica Blue that has the leeward position and the best position there tactically. And they're all approaching the line. There's 15 seconds left to the start. They're all clear behind, and I would say that both Blue and Puma is going to be quite late. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have the start. And it was Telefonica Black that was closest to the line. It was Puma second and Telefonica Blue in third across the line. But they were all clear behind the line, and I would say that Blue has a really nice position to leeward, because they have free air, and if they really want to head left, they are in the right place. But interesting, Green Dragon and Ian Walker choose to cut the stern of everyone and head right on the course.
Okay, Mark, what did you think of that start? Delta Lloyd and Green Dragon definitely second row and late, but Green Dragon now heading out to the right on their own, and they're really free to do what they want now.
Yeah, clear air, and they've saved attack through this gate on the other guys. So Green Dragon in good shape. They'll come back in on starboard at the gate. So that was a perfectly good start. Delta Lloyd really the weakest of the bunch there. Very much second row in bad air, and you can see that in that shot that they've already tacked off onto port to try and get some clear air going up this first beat. 2 Ericsson boats in good shape, everybody else in good shape really, and I think the question is whether or not Telefonica Blue can punch out enough to get attack in to port and get back across to this gate.
Yeah, we've seen that before, haven't we, Canute, where the guys getting the leeward start at the pin, even if it's a great start, if they can't tack, they find themselves held out above the ley line for the gate, and we'll see whether that is what becomes of Telefonica Blue. But tell us what it looks like from water level. Where are you on the race course, and what are you seeing?
Well, Peter, I'm just behind you. I think Blue is coming well out of it. It is a risk in this race course that you have a very little bit to actually before you get to the ley line. But I think Blue is looking pretty good there. She's managed to escape a little bit and get forward. I think they might even be able to cross Puma at the moment. But Ericsson 3 just had to clear and were squeezed by Telefonica. And you guys probably see on the tracker who's ahead, but they still have a bit of distance to go, and the question is obviously whether Telefonica Blue can cross Puma or not.
Okay, well, Mark, why don't you take us through from right to left on the fleet and just update us where everybody is on the racetrack and what you're seeing there.
So at the moment, the group at the top right-hand corner of the track image, Telefonica Blue, Puma, and Telefonica Black, Ericsson 4, all look in good shape. They are leading the way up this beat, but they're all pinned. They're all held onto the starboard tack by the windward boat. You can see there in the image is Ericsson 4, the most windward boat on starboard. On the other side, we have Ericsson 3, Delta Lloyd, and Green Dragon on port, sailing away from us onto the right-hand side of the course. So this is a real boat speed battle here. If Ericsson 4 can hold these guys out all the way to the ley line, then they're going to be in really good shape at the gate. If they can't, and Telefonica Blue can punch out and get across on port and cross this group, then they're going to be in the lead at the gate.
Okay, well, we've got at the extreme right of the racetrack Green Dragon. They're just rolling into attack now. They're heading up towards the gate. And in the extreme left of the race course, it's Telefonica Blue. Green Dragon, Mark, it looked like, just looking on some of those images on the tracker, it looks like they're maybe not sailing as high or pointing as well as some of the other boats. They've gone through their tack now. They'll cross ahead of Delta Lloyd there, it looks like. But it does look like they haven't enjoyed the speed maybe that they would have liked, or the pointing ability. Delta Lloyd having to duck behind them there. That's
right. This first cross will be crucial here, because if Green Dragon don't have contact with this group on the left-hand side, then they're going to be back in a solid 5th or 6th place. So that start is looking pretty high risk right now, as it certainly looks on the tracker as though the bunch on the left-hand side are further up the course. And if they can tack, they can. We see Ericsson 4 there on the tracker. Ericsson 4 is the first to tack across, and that's going to allow that whole group to tack onto port in good shape for this gate. So no attempt to hold or perhaps they couldn't hold the group out there on Ericsson 4. They decided to peel away onto port, head back into the gate. So this cross coming up, Ericsson 4 and Green Dragon, will be the crucial one, I think.
Okay, well, we're coming up with Green Dragon approaching first. Ericsson 3 coming in from the right towards the middle of the race course is Green Dragon. They're about to deal with Ericsson 3, and then Ericsson 4 will be next. There's Green Dragon there, and We'll see. I think Ericsson 3 has maybe just been able to sneak in front of them on that cross, that initial cross. And there you can see the position of Green Dragon relative to the rest of the fleet, and it does look indeed, Mark, like the left has paid off.
Yeah, this group on the left looks very comfortable now. So we have this is the top four here: Puma, the two Telefonica boats, and Ericsson 4 in really good shape. Coming back into the gate on port tack. Green Dragon trailing significantly there. They started the committee boat on port. A clean start, a boat length or two behind, but they're struggling now. Okay,
Knut, we'll go back down to water level. Just give us a bit of an update on what you're seeing, and specifically, what's the wind speed like down there now?
Well, Peter, I'm just behind Puma with Telefonica Black, and the boat that's looking good at the moment, I think it's Telefonica Black. I don't think Blue would have the cross Black if it had continued, but basically both Blue and Black got out of it easily because Puma chose to attack early, and they realized that Black would cover them. But it looks to me that there is more pressure on the left side of the race course. If I had to choose right now, I would definitely choose the left side, and I think the boat that's looking best at the moment is Black, with a really nice patch of breeze, and I really accelerated and made huge gains on Telefonica since the attack. So clearly Green Dragon has not been successful, and Delta Lloyd as well on attacking right early. So more pressure on the left, and as Blue is Telefonica Blue is the boat furthest on the left, they should benefit most from this.
Okay, well, we've got another cross coming up there between the two Ericsson boats, and Mark, it looks like it's Ericsson 4 crossing comfortably, maybe at boat length, maybe 2 ahead of its sister ship, Ericsson 3.
Yeah, Ericsson 3 penalised for the poor start, the slightly second row start. They were spat out early, had to tack off from that group away earlier, and they've done an extra tack, and you can see the difference there. They're now crossing comfortably behind their sister ship.
Okay, and a cross coming up between Puma next. The two Telefonica boats looking strong. On the tracker, it did look like it was Telefonica Black crossing the line between the two marks that make up that mid-course gate, just a fraction maybe ahead of Telefonica Blue. So Black just ahead of Blue, and then not far behind Puma and Ericsson 4. And that was the group that went out to the left side of the race course. Green Dragon, Delta Lloyd, well, they went out to the right, but they also started second row, and so it's hard to tell whether it was the side of the course or starting 15 seconds behind everybody that's been the cause of their woes so far. There's Telefonica Blue still coming in, and they're still the furthest boat to the left of that leading group anyways.
Yeah, we're starting to think now about this next mark just in the bottom of your screen here. It's below that will be the top mark. Telefonica Blue comfortably crossing Ericsson 3 there, I think. So these guys are in good shape. Their sister ship down to leeward and ahead of them. And the next key question is, of course, whether or not Telefonica Blue can cross ahead once Telefonica Black tacks ley line. We're riding with Puma there. These guys are probably the worst of the bunch that's come out of that left-hand side. Not showing quite the same pace as the others, perhaps, or perhaps they didn't get quite acceleration off the line and just fell into some bad air early. But Puma struggling a little bit in the pack, in the thick of it at the moment. The two Telefonica boats look like they're in control right now.
Well, Knut, we are coming up, but we're about halfway between the gate and that first windward mark. How does it look from your position?
So what it looks from my position is that we just had a right-hand shift actually on the race course, and Telefonica Black tacked pretty nicely in a header. So in fact, for Green Dragon, they've been at the wrong place twice, because clearly now it was good to be that on the right side and get that shift. Puma is continuing on the right side, and I'm still questioning. There could be a speed difference on the wind here. Like, there is clearly more wind, I think, on the left side of the race course, and it looks risky to go out on the right. But big shift here clearly, so Black is now crossing behind Blue. So we have Telefonica Blue in the lead at the moment, and the two Telefonica boats are looking good. But I think the best boat in catching the ships at the moment was Ericsson 4. They really tacked right at the moment the wind shifted. And if something Torben Grail is known for is to fix the ships in the right way.
Yeah, what we saw there, Black crossing behind Blue, and Telefonica Black are below the ley line, so they've got 2 more tacks to do at least. Puma look like they've tacked a little bit further on. They may well be laying the windward mark. They would have saved themselves a tack over Telefonica Black. And we can see that image there. We see as it pans out all the way. We'll see Telefonica Blue just to windward of these guys now, tacking in line as well. And it's who's got this nailed this ley line right here. The guys that are on ley line for this mark, they're going to make it in one go without another tack. They're going to come out in good shape. And I think right now, if I had to pick a boat, it would be Telefonica Blue.
And I think that Black might be trying to squeeze up to this ley line now. They've I don't know if there's a shift that they've seen that they've factored into their call, because they've really squeezed up a lot. if they're shy of it, they're not shy of it by very much.
No, you can see the way that on the track viewer there, the way their course is altered as they cross Telefonica Blue. In fact, maybe the lower course is actually as a result of having to get that duck lined up from a long way out. They do now look pretty close to this mark. If they lay it, I think Black's going to lead away here despite crossing behind Blue.
But it's going to be a very tight squeeze. At least that's what it looks like on the tracker. Down on the water, Canute, can you see, is Telefonica Black going to squeeze around here or not?
Well, Peter, I'm actually right behind the two Telefonica boats, and I would be surprised if Black can make that mark. It looks like to me that they tapped at least 3 boat lengths early, but they can be looking at a little lift before the mark. But from my position, it looks like Black is not going to make it and having to make these 2 painful tacks before the mark. And Puma looks to me like they went way too far, actually, for the mark, and I'm going to pay a big price for that. So Blue is definitely laying, and Black is very close to make it, but they will struggle.
Yeah, I think Blue's the boat to watch here. It may actually have been that Black could have laid this mark if they hadn't had to duck Blue. They probably gave up 2 or 3 boat lengths to get behind the stern of Blue at that cross way back there. And that might be the difference between them laying and not laying this mark. But we're looking at this image here. They're smoking up underneath Telefonica Blue, and it's going to be really close if they can hold the momentum into this one. If they can get that boat round in front, they're going to be in great shape.
This might be a case, we've seen it before sometimes, where somebody squeezes up to the mark, and their speed's so low, they end up rounding first, but then they get rolled by 1 or 2 others. The difference here, the wind seems to be a little bit stronger. Boat speeds may be a little bit higher going into this. They might just get away with this mark.
They might, if they can get their kite up quickly and get some acceleration as soon as they turn down. But once you lose the momentum off a 14-ton boat, then and you can see right there the mark is just popping out the stern of Telefonica Black, and they get it round, shoots up in really fast. There's a great hoist there. They look like they're still moving. There's nowhere for Telefonica Blue to go to get past him, in fact. So, and the Ericsson boats coming in locked together as well. It's a fantastic mark rounding. Top 4 boats absolutely side by side here.
Okay, so first around the mark, Telefonica Black. Nose to tail is Telefonica Blue. And then we've got Ericsson going around. And it's Ericsson 4 just ahead of Ericsson 3, who are completely stalled in the water.
Yeah, there was a bad moment there. 3 got stalled by the sister ship going on top of them, and they're going to be very close to hitting this mark. They've now got Puma rolling in over them as well. It's a really painful experience for Ericsson 3. They don't seem to have solved those inshore problems yet. They got themselves in the wrong place there big time. And Ericsson 3 suffering. I think they're going to be handed back down the fleet here if they're not careful.
Okay, so the top 5 around the mark, Telefonica Black, Telefonica Blue, Ericsson 4, Ericsson 3, and Puma, who have probably already passed Ericsson 3. Canute, what's your call on that going around the top mark?
Well, the Green Dragon is getting around in front of Delta Lloyd, just in front. They just managed to finish attack in time, and it was a close call. It was 2 really close calls, as you see, with Ericsson 3 being squeezed by the sister boats, and the same with the 2 Telefonica boats. But it's going to be a close. It's probably one of the closest top mark roundings we ever had, I think.
Yeah, there seem to be some really close battles up and down the fleet between Black and Blue, and then the 2 Ericsson boats and Puma, certainly. And there's nothing wrong there with the fight between Green Dragon and Delta Lloyd. That's as close as you like as well. So not only is the weather cooperating, but the guys are putting on quite a show here, Mark.
Yeah, this is fantastic racing as Telefonica Black leads Telefonica Blue out towards this Port Gibe ley line for the gate. We know there's more pressure on this side, as there certainly was on the beat, so it's the right way to go downwind. I don't see anybody jibing away early here as we head out, so it could well be that they'll all just jibe in line down through the gate and set it up for the... And there's a nice image there on the track viewer. So you can now see Telefonica Blue leading, I think actually leading into the jibe right now, and there's a helicopter image to confirm it. Telefonica Black leading away down towards the gate. Looks like they've lined up somewhere near the middle of the gate here.
And Green Dragon, Canute, seems to have done a nice job of kind of sailing low and maybe gaining a few meters that way. With they don't need to sail high with the other boats right around them.
Well, they've done a nice job, but also Delta Lloyd had a horrible hoist. They managed to get their sheets around the backstays one way or the other. So it took them a long time to get the chute filled. So Green Dragon really got away and got the distance they needed. But Ericsson 4 and Black are the only one that has really jived early. And I think this race is really about pressure. It looks to me like there's clearly differences on the pressure on the race course. So finding more wind is obviously what you want to do. And Blue is very determined to hike the same side as they did upwind. They're really confident about finding more breeze on what will be your right-hand side when you look downwind. And they go all the way to the ley line as far as I can see and drive right now, obviously believing that there is more wind on this side of the race course.
Yeah, they need to get that ley line right, though, don't they, Canute? Because they go a little bit too far here. They'll give up, and then they get the extra pressure. They'll end up giving up distance. I think Telefonica Blue are rolling into their jibe now. So everybody's getting lined up to go through this gate. Black still look like they have the advantage on the tracker, as Telefonica Blue complete their jibe out on the other side of the course. We're riding with Ericsson 3 at the moment, also jibing. These guys were fourth around the mark, but it looks like they're already behind Puma now, actually. I think Puma leading out towards Telefonica Blue's track.
And there we have a nice shot from the helicopter of Green Dragon, one of the local favorites, struggling a little bit, 6th place around the top mark, just ahead of Delta Lloyd. And they'll see whether they can maybe claw back one of the boats in the middle of the fleet here on this run. They have shown some pretty good pace downwind in some of the inshore races. They've also made some nice tactical calls downwind before, Mark. We've seen them gain a couple places on the runs before.
And the fact that the group in front of them is so close together will give them an advantage at the bottom mark here. They'll all come in tight. It's going to be pretty close at the bottom mark, and that just being a little bit behind the bunch often means that gap closes right down as everybody else goes round. Watching Green Dragon roll into their jibe here, taking a very similar line to Telefonica Blue and Puma. All three of these boats going to skim somewhere near the right-hand side of the gate, looking downwind. The rest of the bunch up to windward. Telefonica Black leading Ericsson 4, followed by Ericsson 3 and Delta Lloyd, all on a similar line. There we go for the tracker, just to confirm all that.
And Canute, your position out on the water, what's the wind doing just now? Are we still seeing it build a little bit, or are we hovering around that 10-knot range?
Yeah, I think the breeze is a little down, actually, from the upwind. It's much less pressure than we had at the start. And I still think this is about finding pressure out there. It's difficult to say who's done the right thing, but Blue looks very determined just to keep the same side for the race course. And it's hard to say. I don't think they have lost anything. It's hard to tell if they have gained much. But it looks like it's less breeze at the bottom of the race course, closer to the start line, than it is further up. So that means that the fleet might compress a bit getting down to the bottom line, which is what we like, because that keeps the racing close.
Yeah, and it's crucial in these boats. They're sailing in a very critical area of their performance curves where another knot of wind speed can mean another knot or a knot and a half of boat speed. So it doesn't take much for one boat to be doing quite a bit more speed than another in terms of pressure, wind speed changes around the course. So we could see it all close up quite quickly here as the leaders, Telefonica Black, they've just passed through the gate, followed by Telefonica Blue. So the Telefonica team they're still in that 1-2 at the moment on the tracker anyway, but there's the whole mark rounding through the gate here to negotiate yet. I think we're going to see guys wanting to go for that right-hand mark looking downwind, left-hand mark looking upwind, so they can come back out to this left-hand side, which seems to have the better of the pressure at the moment.
Well, Telefonica Black, they're doing a nice job. This will be a really good result. It's still early in this race, of course, but if they can hold on to this, it's certainly much further up the fleet than they've been recently. 2 5-place finishes in the last 2 import races for Telefonica Black. Although they started strongly, they had a great opening to the regatta in Alicante.
They did. They had a fantastic second place. We'll see the bowman there just coming back. What he's got in his hand there is the retrieval line for that sail. It's held in a pocket near the tack, near the very front of the sail on the bowsprit. And when they know which side they want to drop, as they're coming into the mark, they take it out of the pocket, lead it back down the boat. As you can see the bowman doing there, walking his way back down, leading that rope as he goes. He'll put that on a winch or a drum or hand it to the guys, and they'll use that to pull the sail down when they get to the bottom. So these guys have already decided which mark they want to go around, which side the sail wants to come down, and how they're going to set up into the bottom mark gate here.
Well, Telefonica Black is your leader over Telefonica Blue as the fleet pours downwind. It's the first lap of a 2-lap course, the first race of 2 scheduled races here in Galway. Conditions absolutely perfect. We were a little bit worried the wind would be light, but we had somewhere near 10 knots at start. It's maybe eased down to about 8, and there is a bit of a difference between the top and the bottom of the race course, a couple more knots near the top. But Canute, can you tell us where you are on the race course and what you're seeing just now?
Well, I'm just to weather of Delta Lloyd. I can say there's big changes at the moment. Actually, Green Dragon is about to actually overhaul Puma. And what is happening is that the guys who drive late in the corner have had less pressure. There's some new pressure that's filled in from behind. And to me, it looks like Black has done a great job driving early, but and it's actually becoming a bit overcast. There's something happening on the weather side. I can feel some colder temperature. And as I speak, Green Dragon is actually sailing over Puma with clearly more pressure. And so there's such big differences on the race course. It's just a few boats between them. But clearly Green Dragon has more pressure than Puma at the moment, and are really just sailing over them. It's it's quite amazing. Obviously, Puma is still ahead because they're to leeward, but Green Dragon is much, much closer.
And we can see we're riding with Green Dragon there, and you can see the black clouds inshore of them on ahead of the boat. Quite big black clouds building up over the land. So I think there may be change in the air from our vantage point at Salt Hill Hotel. On the shore, on the northern shore, we can see that it looks pretty light with a band of breeze further out towards the mouth of the bay, and it may be that we're in some kind of sea breeze transition here now with clouds building over the land.
Well, this could make for an interesting second lap of the race course if it's all changed, but early on the Telefonica boats have had it all their own way, but Telefonica Black, Mark, maybe pinning themselves out into a corner here.
Yeah, they look a little far out, and I'd say we've got a pass here that Telefonica Blue have rolled down the middle there towards the gate and going to cross in front. Telefonica Black jibing there, I think, with the helicopter shot. We're just switching back to the onboard view here. I think this is Blue. That looks like Bauerbeking, yeah. This is riding with Telefonica Blue. They are actually going to lead around this gate. You can see the gate mark just on the left-hand side of the picture there. So Telefonica Blue have made a pass, quite a comfortable pass in the end. It looks like that, staying out on that left-hand side facing upwind, doing the late jibe at the top of the course and rolling all the way down that side of the course has given them more pressure, and they've made a comfortable pass to Telefonica Black, who on the tracker at least, who've taken a quick glance at that, they have in quite a bit of trouble as they come back across with this middle group. You can see there Telefonica Black just sneaking in front. The mast heights are pretty similar there. There's not a lot between those two boats, and that's Telefonica Black being caught by the Ericssons. So it's going to be all on here at this gate. Telefonica Blue, comfortable lead, and you give these guys a head start on this inshore course in light air, and that's usually the last you see of them. Bauerbeking sailing away from the mark, that bottom mark, on port. He's actually now going towards the right-hand side of the course, looking upwind. We might see them set up to take attack back out to this left-hand side, looking upwind. That's favoured them on both the first beat and the first run so far.
So halfway through the first of the two scheduled import races, it's Telefonica Blue first through that gate and heading to the right-hand side of the race course. They've passed their sister ship. It looks like, Knut, we might have a fairly close cross coming up here between Telefonica Black.
Well, I tell you, the biggest change at the moment is that the wind has shifted to the right. And really that was really made it great for Telefonica Blue there. They had a perfect lay line early and didn't have to drive after the gate at all, coming from the other side of the gate. So we just hear now that Bill O'Hara has decided to shift the race course to 150, so that means a 10 degrees change of the next upwind as the wind has shifted to the right. And it's clearly a change of weather. It's becoming overcast. It's a colder air coming through, and we know that there is a potential today for big wind shifts. And we could be witnessing one of those shifts happening very soon. But they're very, very close bottom mark finish. Telefonica Black just managed to get the round in front of Ericsson 3. And the big loser, I would say, on this downwind has been Ericsson 4, who went too far in what would be the left corner looking down, and then the breeze at the top of it shifted right. So they have a painful way back to the bottom mark down, going around behind both Puma and Ericsson 3.
And Knut, it looks really soft there right now in terms of wind speed.
Yeah, it's very soft at the bottom mark. I mean, it obviously looks soft because they dropped their spinnakers. But I'm looking at Telefonica Blue, and they have found new breeze again, and they're actually speeding up quite well. So it's very soft right at the mark, but Telefonica Blue is clearly having nice pressure. So it's kind of a mixture between wind dropping and all the boats trying to sail downwind without the spinnaker, which is obviously very difficult.
Okay, well, let's just give you a run-through on that mark rounding. It was Telefonica Blue from Telefonica Black, and then a whole bunch of them going around nearly at once with Ericsson 3, Puma, Ericsson 4, and now just Green Dragon. And, of course, everybody, Mark, is heading out to that right-hand side.
That's right. I think some of these guys are going to have to peel off, though. It's pretty ugly, dirty wind for these back markers. You can see Green Dragon there just looking into a gale of dirty air flowing back from the sails of Ericsson 4, and Ian Walker putting the helm down. They're tacking away now. So it's got very soft. We're in some sort of transition zone here, and these guys need to keep their eyes out of the boat, peel for where this new breeze is going to come to. Knut's calling that Telefonica Blue found something out on the right-hand side. That might be the best bet, but not all these boats are going to be able to get there. You can see from that shot there just how close it is and how much dirty air there is for the back markers. Delta Lloyd just going around now.
Okay, so Telefonica Blue at the head of the fleet, Telefonica Black, Ericsson 3, Puma, and Ericsson 4, and Green Dragon. Those last 3 or 4 boats pretty much going through that gate within just a few seconds of each other. and now just getting themselves organized. You can see that shot we've got there, Telefonica Black, well low of Ericsson, and Puma has also tacked off now.
That's right. They've been able to accelerate away here and they're in clear air. They've been able to push out and put the bow down and get the boat going fast and get some advantage out to the right-hand side here. Everyone else slowly having to tack off. We're seeing all of them now on starboard tack. Delta Lloyd actually have rounded not such a bad position here. They weren't that far behind by the time the other guys got to them. And because their whole bunch is now tacked away from them, they're able to follow these two lead boats out to this right-hand side in clear air. Everybody else, Ericsson 3, Puma, Ericsson 4 and Green Dragon, all forced to tack in light air. And to get away from dirty air, it's a very slow, it's a very costly maneuver. So that group of 4 may well find themselves that Delta Lloyd are back into that bunch by the time we get to the gate.
And Canute, Telefonica Blue, the magic continues. They had a great run down there making the pass, and really on the tracker it looks like they're just away now.
Yeah, they're really just away, and there was an interesting incident between the two Ericsson boats. So it's a protest happening between the two Ericsson boats at the bottom mark, but they got green flagged by the jury, so no penalties. But there's not always a happy camp in teams, but they managed to get around and they're all sailing well. But clearly Blue has a huge gap now to the rest of the fleet, and it seems like the breeze is filling in again, but it's really coming in patches. Right now I see a patch on the left side in front of me, and there's a light patch in the middle, and Blue and Puma are sort of heading out to the more windier part of it, but it's going to be about finding pressure. Really, if you're out of it, you're going to struggle to get back into it.
Well, we had the race start in somewhere just upwards of 10 knots of wind. That has certainly eased off. It looks like, what would you say, Mark, now? Maybe 6, 7, 8 knots now?
I think we're down in around that area. It certainly looks very quiet from where we are overlooking the race course. And you can see on that boat, we're riding with Telefonica Blue there, Becking having a good look around for the breeze. Just checking whether or not the next transition zone, or if there's a new line of breeze. From the shore here, we're up high, and it does look darker out towards the mouth of the bay, so there may be something coming in from the right, which is what you can see, the mouth of the bay, just the headland to the right there on that picture of Telefonica Blue. If there's breeze coming in from that direction, Becking is pointing his boat towards it, so he'll be pretty happy.
Well, we know the wind has shifted to the right. We've had a shift in the race course, 10 degrees to the right. 140 is what we set up on. 150 is what the second lap of the course will be, but they don't move the gate, and so you can see Telefonica Blue going through, or approaching the gate now, certainly, and they're really approaching the right-hand side as much as they can here.
Yeah, at a very comfortable angle through on starboard. This is the only tack you can cross this gate on almost. It's not quite that bad, but it's getting that way. So we're riding on board with Puma, also on starboard, headed through the gate, on board with Puma there. This guy's working on the trim, trying to keep this boat moving in some pretty light and difficult conditions. They've got boats either side of them on Puma. They've got Ericsson 3, I think, up to windward, Ericsson 4 to leeward, so they need to hold their place in the lineup here, or they'll be in big trouble.
Well, let's just run through the fleet from right to left. Is Telefonica Blue. Almost straight behind them, holding their line, is Telefonica Black, then Delta Lloyd. They also hadn't made a attack until quite late, around that first mark. Then we've got Ericsson 3, Puma, Ericsson 4, and Green Dragon. That's our fleet from right to left as we look at it. Green Dragon, of course, on the far left of the race course, and with a right-hand shift mark, that's not really the place you want to be, out to the left when the wind is shifting to the right.
No, that's right. And you can see this big shift won't, although that mark has moved to the right, there isn't a great deal of time on port tack here for Telefonica Blue from where they are. So the chances of catching them before this top mark are very limited, I think. You'd rather be on the right than the left at the moment. Puma are actually looking in pretty good shape there. They're clearly no problem with the boat to leeward, and they're starting to put some pressure on Ericsson 3 to windward of them. You can see just coming into shot at the bottom of the picture, Telefonica Black, following in the wake of a sister ship. Both these boats, I think, going to be 1-2 around this mark, unless there's a shift back to the left, of course, which would, given the leverage across this fleet now, there's quite a bit of separation from Green Dragon to Telefonica Black. A shift to the left would change the picture quite radically, quite quickly.
Well, we have Telefonica Black there. It's the closest boat on our screen. But Canute, tell us where you are on the race course, and what are you seeing, and especially what's the wind doing down where you are?
Well, Peter, I'm just with Delta Lloyd, which is sort of probably the back of the pack at the moment, and they have clearly very little pressure. It's less pressure. I would say that the boat with the most pressure at the moment is Telefonica Blue. They're going to stretch further. We can see that on the keel angle. They have more pressure up in the front. So you're kind of sailing into more pressure, and this overcast picture we have behind us, it's moving slowly up the race course, and it doesn't bring any breeze with it. It probably slows it down. So it's going to be interesting to see with Green Dragon hiking all the way to the left. To me, that looks really risky because you do see a right-hand tendency in the breeze. And I would say that Green Dragon would lose out on being older out on the left side. But more pressure further up the race course, that's what I can see. And I just have Ericsson 4 tacking to cross in front of Delta Lloyd. And it's unusual to see Torben Grail this far down the racetrack, this far down on the scoring board in the middle of the impact race.
Well, indeed, and I can tell you from where we are, just behind Salt Hill Road, up on the hill here, Knut, there are thousands of people who probably don't normally care about the weather, really hoping the wind shifts to the left for their heroes on Green Dragon, because they are stuck out on the left side of the race course, and it's not a good look right now.
No, I think if we can see that their angle's a little bit lower than the other guys as well, so less pressure out that side, and from the hill here we can see a little band of pressure trickling up to the course that Telefonica Blue have got lined up really nicely. But it looks to me from where I am that Green Dragon are out of it, they're to leeward of it, and they need to take a hitch up to get into that pressure. The problem is that tack itself will be expensive, and they'll have to take the loss. If they come across on port now, they are all going to be accepting that loss that they've already made, and if they don't, it may just get worse as well. So it's a rock and a hard place for Tactician Ian Moore on the Green Dragon right now.
There's a lot of traders who've had the same feeling over the last 18 months, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. These are tough boats to sail in these short courses because the tacking is so expensive because of the canting keel and all the gear. It's an offshore boat essentially, and it's a lot of work to get these boats around short-handed these tight inshore courses, and it makes for this spectacular racing. You can see, I think that's a great angle on the helicopter shot there. You can see that Green Dragon's bow is a little bit lower. They're just sailing a little bit, not quite as close to the top mark as the other guys, and making losses all the time up here. However, once they tack, if they can stay in that breeze and that breeze comes across to the top mark, they've actually got the left-hand shift that perhaps they need. But if it's pressure, if it's less pressure and less breeze that they're in, then they're just in trouble.
Well, Knut, we've got Telefonica Blue. They've got 2 tacks left to get around this mark, and it's not going to be an awful lot of time that they need to spend on port tack to get there. We'd expect to see them roll into attack very shortly. But what's amazing to us is the angle that we're seeing both Puma and Ericsson 4 sailing here on the tracker.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a huge difference between the boats. And in fact, Puma, the Ericsson boat there, has been sailing, I would say, 20 degrees higher on starboard tack than Green Dragon. The Green Dragon is just tacking in a horrible position, and they have really, I don't think so much sailed out of the wind direction, but they have sailed out of the pressure. So they sail so much less breeze for so long time now, and it looks like you could be sailing into a wind shift, but in fact you're sailing into less pressure. And these boats, the Volvo Ocean 70s, they need speed to sail high. So when they have very little wind speed like Green Dragon has, they will just point low, whatever direction she looks. And she's just tacking now, and she'll tack far behind Delta Lloyd, and it's obviously a very disappointing result for Green Dragon in their home base.
Yeah, Mark, I think that's maybe a case where once they got out there, there's really nothing they can do, and there's almost no harm in staying because they're already probably behind, and they're just hoping something comes back. It oscillates back for them.
Yeah, if you tack, you definitely accept the loss, and if you carry on, you accept the loss with the possibility that you might get it back. And I think Ian decided just to carry on with the hope that the breeze would come back from the left-hand side. It hasn't, and whatever happened there, I think they were going to really be struggling at this top mark. We're riding now images of Puma and Ericsson 4 on their, not sure if they've actually tacked now for their final approach, but Telefonica Blue, who are on port tack, coming up to this windward mark. Comfortable lead for Telefonica Blue, making it look real easy, these guys. These are absolutely the conditions. They've already won, I think, 3 import races in just these conditions. About to do this final tack onto starboard. Windward mark lined up beautifully. Nice smooth tack, guys on the handles. You can see there's only 3 or 4 guys winding there. Not too much pressure on these sails, not too much need for the muscle power on this boat at the moment. Coming out of that tack nice and smoothly, trying to get the acceleration going, build the speed ahead of the hoist. Telefonica Blue going to lead comfortably around this second windward mark.
Well, the band just keeps playing for these guys. Really, you can see the extent of their lead there. And the thing that's even more significant for them is if they can get their teammates on Telefonica Black to stay ahead of Puma. That gives them a little bit of margin with the closest rival on the overall leaderboard as well, and that would be a fairly important and significant advantage if they're able to hold that. But going around the mark now, Spinnaker goes up. Grinders turning the handles, and then the head sail comes down inside, and that spinnaker won't fill before that comes down.
No, it's crucial to get the head sails down on these boats as fast as possible to get the spinnaker full, because you can't, on a conventional boat, you can pull the spinnaker bowl back and get it into the air coming from the stern of the boat. In these boats, you've actually got to get the head sail down and out of the way so the spinnaker can fill, and you can see the spinnaker still fogging there as the head sail comes down. Any second now there's going to be enough jib on the deck for it to fill. And there's the chute filling. Telefonica Blue away from that mark. Took them a while to get that spinnaker full, and there's a few boat lengths between them and the mark there, but it almost doesn't matter right now. They've got such a comfortable lead here. Telefonica Black just rolling into her tack, onto starboard, lining this windward mark up. No threat at the moment from Puma. You can see the guy on the bow. He's going to feed that sail out underneath the headsail, try and get a little bit of a sneak, get as much of it up as he can before they get to the windward mark. Someone clearing the rest of the sail back to leeward, so the thing's as much in its setting position before it actually goes up as possible. The key thing now, once it's up, is that the speed with which that headsail, that jib, comes back down again.
Well, there we are on board with Telefonica Black. You can see the work being done on the foredeck there to get that enormous spinnaker up and the head sail down. Second place for Telefonica Black. Their teammates on Telefonica Blue were the first around the top mark. Telefonica Black in second place. And Canute, the fleet is starting to spread out a little bit now.
So the finish line has been shifted to the right as well when you're looking down the race course. It is big shift at the moment. I would say it's a big left shift right now. Green Dragon is tucked out to the left corner to try to recover, but I think it was the wrong time for them. But it's spreading out, and Ericsson 3 is now clearly behind Ericsson 4 with quite a bit of distance.
Riding with Puma there on their hoist. Jib coming down. Some nice sets on these next 2 or 3 boats around after Telefonica Blue. So Telefonica Blue leading, Black second, Puma around third. We have Ericsson 4 approaching in a comfortable fourth place and on the mark right there. So that's a tack on the mark, which is going to be pretty ugly. You can see how slowly they're going there. So it's going to be tough getting this sail to fill.
Yeah, it's not the fastest way to get around the mark, and you can see how hard the guys are working. There's a lot of things to pull at the same time there. They've got to get the spinnaker up, the jib sheet in to get some speed and get around the mark initially, and then spinnaker sheet in. But you can see the sails filled already. It's a pretty nice hoist by those guys. Yeah,
that jib came down real fast, and you can see that how much it helped get that spinnaker full. And as soon as the spinnaker's full, the boat's accelerating nicely. So these guys are getting away from the mark. They'll be wanting to get after Puma. Telefonica Black will be cheering them on, because if they can get another boat between them and Puma, that really helps them in the overall standings.
Well, that's your top 4 around the top mark for the second and final time. It's just a run down to the finish now. It's Telefonica Blue, Telefonica Black, Puma, and Ericsson 4, as Torben Grail able to move up a couple places, or at least one place on that second beat to get himself back up near the top half of the fleet, and he'll be paying close attention to Puma right now, seeing if he can make a pass. And that looks like Ericsson 3 around now, Mark.
Yeah, that's Ericsson 3 rounding in fifth. We have Delta Lloyd lined up on starboard, approaching the mark behind her. Green Dragon, I think, going to have to duck her, and will certainly go behind and then put a tack in, so they will be trailing pretty painfully at this top mark. The hometown jinx is continuing. No one since Alicante has managed to get a good result in their hometown, so unless these Green Dragon boys can really turn it around in the next race, and we've seen that before too. We've seen last places turn into podium positions overall in this with a great second race, so it's not over yet by a long way, but you can see Green Dragon coming behind Delta Lloyd there, still with a tack to do before this windward mark, so they've got plenty of work to do in this final leg.
Well, Canute, talk us through the conditions on the race course right now. We're seeing Telefonica Blue making their way down there quite well, but Green Dragon up at the top, it looks a little bit light up there.
Yeah, it's light. I don't think it has dropped so much, Peter. It's pretty stable at the moment. It's clearly less speed than we had in the beginning of the first beat. So, but they're all making good speed downwind, and as you said, the fleet has been spread out. Green Dragon obviously a bit disappointing in the back of the fleet, but things can change. We know there's a potential for big shifts. The wind direction has continued to go a little right, I would say, and we have shifted the finish line to the right, looking downhill. So it is light, and the question is obviously whether we will see a second race or not.
Okay, well, we'll see how things develop over the rest of the day. Certainly, Mark, the clouds that Canute's been talking about we've had them start to come over the shoreline here now as well and head out over the bay. It was, for a while, it seemed like it was just over that area near the race course, but it's starting to move more towards the city now.
Yeah, it's very, very cloudy all over, and if this is building from the thermal, then there's some chance of a sea breeze, but that, if it doesn't fill in properly from the coast all the way down the bay, that may mean more trouble than good for us, I'm afraid. But these are perfect conditions for Telefonica Blue. Bauer Becking will be very happy. He obviously has a straight line to the wind gods here. He's got the conditions for his boat, and 5 out of 6 import regattas now, and he's making it count. There's no question. You see Telefonica Blue going straight down through the gate here. Telefonica Black on her tail. We've not seen these two do this sort of result since Alicante, and that's a long while ago. Puma in good shape, but she'll be trying to hold off Ericsson 4, who've just gone a little bit further on before they jibed and lined up the gate. Nice aerial shot there of the boats going downwind, heading through the gate, and you can see how much the fleet has opened up as a result of that shift. It just gave all the advantages to the boats as they rounded that mark, that from the back it was just so painful into that dirty air at the leeward mark, forced to tack away in bad air and then go the wrong side of the beat. It just meant that everybody extended from everybody in front of them.
Yeah, it looks like we might have a little bit of a battle maybe shaping up between the two Ericsson boats. There's a bit of lateral separation there. There's not an awful lot in it right now. That could be one to watch on this final run.
Could be, but my money would be on on Ericsson 4. I'm afraid, Peter, in the lead. Torben Grail, the overall leader. They don't have that great a record on the Ericsson 3 inshore, and I know which one I'd be backing. But yeah, maybe.
Well, we've got Telefonica Blue leading, Telefonica Black and Puma, Ericsson 4 and 3 right behind, and then Delta Lloyd and Green Dragon, and we're on board with the leaders, Telefonica Blue. And you can see in the distance behind them the spinnakers of the other boats trailing. That's the black boat first, and then Puma, the big red spinnaker there as well. But it's a fairly comfortable margin there for Bauer Becking, Iker Martinez and company as they set themselves up. Just about to go through the gate now. And then Canute, they have shifted that finish line a little bit. So what's going to be next for them when they get through this gate?
Well, that's the question. I think we should be pretty much downwind from the gate. So I would still expect them to continue on port side for a while. And it looks to me like it's really light around the finish line area. And that could be bound for a tricky finish. But we talked about the close battle. I think there is a potential for a battle between Ericsson 4 and Puma as well, depending on what's going to happen with the breeze. But in the front now, with the two Telefonica boats, they are having a wind drift, even more right-handed than the boats behind them. So I can see Telefonica Blue just veering away, almost like they sailed through the gate, and they're not going to be far from actually pointing at the finish line.
It just keeps getting better and better for Bauer Becking, doesn't it? He turns a corner and finds his boat pointing at the next mark without the need to tack or jibe. So, yeah, no one's going to catch these guys. They've just got a massive header as they've come through the gate, pointing at the finish line now with the fleet just trailing in their wake. I think that shift is moving back up the fleet. Telefonica Black seem to have it now, and Puma as well. It's going to make it close with Puma and Ericsson 4. Ericsson 4 to leeward, so they have some advantage. But Puma have got into the shift first. And I think the question is whether or not they can roll down across the bow of Ericsson 4 or not before they get to this gate. You can see the size of the shift there. That course change is not a jibe. That course change is a wind shift in the front three boats there.
Well, Telefonica Blue, not an awful lot to do to win this race still now. They're through that gate. They're pointing at the finish. They've got several hundred meters to go yet, but certainly looking like they're going to win another in-port race. They won 2 on the trot in Boston, and this looks like they're well positioned to do the same thing in the first of 2 scheduled races here in Galway. And looking out, Mark, at the bay here, we can see just how streaky it is. I mean, we're not looking directly at the race area, but the part of the bay in front of us, it's certainly pretty patchy out there. Yeah,
it's very unpleasant. I mean, that helicopter shot we've got there, we can see the boats actually just sailing down, the course change of the boats in front versus the guys behind, and Ericsson 4's spinnaker luff curling from almost 40 seconds there as they try to track the bow through the 40 or 50 degrees that they needed to get it on course in the new wind direction. So. And that's how tough it is out there. It's got very flaky. Started in great shape with a 10-knot breeze, beautiful sunny day, and now we've got our normal import weather of light, flaky, and cloudy.
And, of course, the team that has had a bit of difficulty getting themselves through this is the local heroes on Green Dragon, unfortunately. They look like on the tracker they might be the only boat without that shift yet. But it's coming. Just hold on, Ian. It's almost there. And they'll be pointing at the finish line before too long as well. Closest battle right now, Puma and Ericsson 4.
That's right. Puma very close to rolling down across the bow of Ericsson 4 and confirming that place. And it looks like we're going to headsails on Telefonica Blue here. This wind shift is going even further. So they're getting the headsail up, Spinnaker away just to get across this finish line. So we'll go to Knut here and see what he can tell us on the water.
Well, the shift has just continued, Mark, to the right, so the breeze is almost in now. And Ericsson 4 was the first boat to hoist the jib, and then now the two front boats, both Telefonica boats, have their jibs up. And in fact, they will both be struggling to lay the finish line with the Spinnaker. So headsails are coming up on all the boats, basically, to make the finish line, which is obviously a great advantage for the two Telefonica boats who are going to take this home easily.
Okay, well, we can see that great shot of Telefonica Blue. The head sails up, the Spinnaker trailing from the top of the mast down around the back of the boat, and they'll be trying to get control of it and into the cockpit soon. Puma, Mark, seems to be the one holding on as long as they can.
Yeah, that's right. They've still got that sail up. They're just taking it down across the bow of Ericsson 4 and putting themselves between them and the finish, perhaps. Kenny just wants to get as far down the course. Ken Reid, the skipper, wants to get as far down the course with the sail up as he possibly can. But there's no doubt that this is going to finish upwind on the wind. So it's now blowing off the northern shore. It's a northwesterly, in fact, so quite where that breeze has come from. What if that's some kind of thermal that's created on a shore here somewhere because of the different coordinations, the different coastline variations around here and the gradient blowing across it? I'm not sure. We'll have to go and look at our charts and try and figure out where this wind has come from.
All right, well, that's a great shot there. We've got Telefonica Blue and Black, Puma set up, and then the two Ericsson boats, and way off in the distance still Green Dragon and Delta Lloyd rounding out the fleet. Green Dragon still trailing. I don't know whether this is a situation, Knut, that maybe just the wild card aspect of this at least might be something that Ian Walker can use to his advantage and try and pull a place back from Delta Lloyd.
Well, he could potentially, but he is unfortunately behind, and he was setting up for leeward, which is not a good idea when the breeze is pulling in from the side. But unfortunately, I think this is really going to be just follow the leader game all the way into the finish line, because there's not much you can do where everyone is really pointing at the finish. And they all have their head sails up, and right there, Telefonica Blue just crossed the line and won their 5th import race, I guess.
Well, Telefonica Blue across the line in first place. Head sail up, sailing upwind for 2.5 legs of this 4 laps of the race course. And another great win for Bauerbeck, Nico Martinez. It doesn't seem to matter, Mark, what the weather throws at these guys. They seem to be on a roll in the inshore races right now.
That's right, and we've actually seen them do that very same passing move, going all the way out to the corner before they jibe for the gate on the first run, and taking first place at the bottom. Mark, we've seen them do that before. It's like a well-oiled routine for these guys. They just do the same thing. The wind does what it needs to, and they pop out in front and just nail it from there. So fantastic job by Telefonica Blue. Can't put a foot wrong. We can see the shot there. Telefonica Black creeping in across the line just behind them. These guys will be a second place, and they'll be between Blue and Puma, which will be great for Bauerbecking and Ike Martinez. They'll be very happy about that. Anxious to put some points on the board, get some advantage over Puma here, and in their conditions, very much in their conditions. If we have a windy leg, particularly if you have a windy leg downwind all the way to through the English Channel up into the North Sea, it will be very much be Puma's day, and they'll need to get some points on the board right now. So Telefonica Black about to cross the line here. We should see the buoy somewhere out to the right-hand side of that picture now with Black, and there's the horn. You just hear the horn, so great result for Telefonica Black. Fantastic job for them. Very happy about that one, those guys.
So across the finishing line now, so far we've had Blue, Black, and Puma looks like very safe in third place here, Mark.
Yeah, another shot there, just Puma creeping in third place. It all looks pretty light and tricky, and what this means is we're going to need a complete reorientation of the course if we're going to have to get a second race away, or we're going to need the wind to fill back in. But from our vantage point on Salt Hill here, now we're looking out past the fleet. There's a huge hole to windward of them. There's no wind at all between them and some way distant towards the mouth of the bay. So well, this may be it for today, in which case Becking will be a very happy man.
Well, we'll see. We've still got quite a bit of time left before the race officer, Bill O'Hara, needs to make that call. He's got until 4:30 to make it, so there's definitely at least a couple of hours where we can see what the wind is going to do. And we'll talk to him after the race and find out what he's thinking, what his plans are, and how long he's going to wait and see if the wind settles itself out. But good shot there. Puma, Ericsson 4, and Puma looks like they're home and cooled here, Knut. Although Ericsson 4 gave them a bit of a fright maybe at the end, but Puma in control as they get right near and across the finishing line now, Knut.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Puma was in full control there. I don't think they ever set code 7. I just said to Jack next to me that I was quite surprised seeing that nobody even tried a code 0. It was pretty perfect code 0 conditions, and they didn't even consider it. So that was interesting. But it is a drop in the wind speed for sure. Right now, I would say it's too light to even thinking about starting a second. But we have some time to go, and we spoke to the navigator Axel Magdal at the Ocean this morning, and he predicted a cold front for some coming through just at about this time, and said that we will have a big shift in the wind speed and potentially some breeze with it. At the moment, we have seen the shift but no wind. So let's wait and see at least for an hour and see what happens, and then we'll come back.
Okay, well, across the finishing line in the first of two scheduled races, Telefonica Blue, Telefonica Black, Puma and Ericsson 4, and their teammates on Ericsson 3 looking to be next across the line in 5th place. Maybe not a great result for them, Mark, but also not a disaster for Ericsson 3. This is one that you get a good result in the second race, you could find yourself maybe challenging for a podium spot in the import day.
That's right. Certainly very recoverable from a 5th for these guys. They had an absolute shocker in the first race in Boston and recovered, I think it was 6th in the first place, but recovered to a 4th overall. So they'll be pretty happy with that, although they were better placed at the top mark the first time around and didn't quite get it lined up. Got rolled by the sister ship Ericsson 4 right on the windward mark. And that was really the difference between these two boats all the way round. So Ericsson 3 now rolling in, not far off this finish line for a 5th place finish.
Well, the weather, the story of the day here, at least the story of the first half of the day in this first race. A massive wind shift to the right, clouds rolling in, and a wind speed, probably a range in this race, anywhere from near 12 knots at the top mark for the first time down to, it looks like it's just around 4 or 5 knots at times now.
Yeah, it's very soft, and as Knut said, it's code 0 territory now. It is just a possession here that the wind shift has put the boats in line astern, and they're just filing across in order, so not much is going to change things, I don't think, but it's certainly right now, if we were starting a race, which was unlikely, but if we were, for sure, we would be in code 0 territory. The big sails up to the masthead on the bowsprit and all the way back to the stern of the boat. Just a vast cloud of sail area for these light conditions.
Well, Ericsson 3 across in that 5th place. Delta Lloyd and Green Dragon, you can see from there we've got the last two boats still out on the race course. As you said, the hometown jinx continues. It's I heard Ian Walker speaking about this in a radio interview after the press conference yesterday, and he said, the worst conditions for us are these kind of medium air things. If it's really light, we might be okay, and if it's really windy, I trust our crew work to get us through. But the medium air things that this race started in were what he feared, and that is what he got for at least most of this race until the very end.
That's right, and by then it was really a done deal for Green Dragon. They were completely stuck at that bottom mark rounding at the end of the first lap. They had no choices at the leeward mark. They had to tack off to the left to get some clear air. The left was very definitely not the place to be, and they took a painful hit. And you can see the body language on the boat there. Ian Moore in the middle of the picture looking pretty unhappy, disconsolately kicking a few foot chocks there. Just filing across the line in last place. It's not good for these boys, but the painful experience that Puma went through in Boston, and Ericsson 4 and Torben Grower went through in Rio in their home crowd in front of them, and not getting the result that people wanted.
Well, Knut, I don't know if you've had a chance to get in touch with Jack and Bill O'Hara and maybe give us a bit of an update on what the race committee's thinking yet.
Well, at the moment, they definitely have to wait, of course, for the full last place to finish, and the Green Dragon is just about to crossing the finish line. And then the breeze has now shifted big time right, so it's obviously to set up a whole new race course, but also importantly, we need more pressure. But it's just a new weather system out there. It's completely overcast at the moment, and certainly a new wind direction. So I'm sure Bill and Jack will have to wait and see and let it settle down a little bit before we make a decision about laying a new race course.
Okay, well, we'll see and get some information from those. Green Dragon approaching the finishing line now, just going across in 7th place. And that's the end of race 1 here in Galway. But our finishing order: Telefonica Blue, Telefonica Black, Puma, Ericsson 4, Ericsson 3, Delta Lloyd, and Green Dragon on a pretty topsy-turvy start to an afternoon of racing. It held a lot of promise when it started, Mark. We had more breeze than we expected. We had a lot of sunshine. We still got thousands of people lining the seawall here, but we didn't quite have the race end the way we thought it was when it started. Really topsy-turvy throughout the afternoon.
No, a big transition has come in here, and as Knut said, Axel may well have been right that there's some kind of front moved over us. That would explain the cloud, the dark clouds. It would explain the light air right under the front. Whether or not we're going to get any wind from on the back side of it remains to be seen. We're going to have to wait for a little while at least, I think, before we get any kind of fill-in here. And if we do get a fill-in from this northerly direction, this northwesterly, we're going to have to shift the whole race course around. It was originally orientated for a southeasterly at 140. Right now the wind's blowing from the north, from something like, 320 maybe, so we're going to have to take the committee boat down to where the windward mark is, and vice versa, move the whole thing around. That's going to take a bit of time to set up, and before we can even start to do that, it has to settle in this direction at a velocity where we can get a start away. So, got to wait a little bit to wait here, I think, Pete.
Yeah, and you can see there's our results in the first in-port race, our provisional results, of course, subject to any kind of protests or things afterwards, although we haven't had any issues with that so far in the import racing. The on-the-water umpires taking care of most infractions on the water as they happen.